3. On the fourth day things changed. The statement that God put them in the expanse of the heavens on that day expresses the fact that God caused the sources of light Heb, Ma-middle.o, namely, the sun, moon, and stars, to become discernible in the expanse. Their purpose was to make a division between the day and the night and to serve as signs and for seasons and for days and years. In addition to being signs of God's existence and majesty, by their movements such luminaries enable man to mark accurately the natural seasons, days, and years. G 1. 14-18. PS 74. 16. 148. 3. The same Hebrew word ma-middle.o is used with reference to the light-bearing equipment in the tabernacle, which employed lighted oil as the means for producing illumination. X 25. 6. 27. 20. 35. 8, 14, 28. La 24. 2. New 4. 9 at Proverbs 15. 30. It is used figuratively in the expression brightness of the eyes. Egypt is prophetically warned of a withdrawal of all light by Jehovah's darkening and beclouding all the luminaries form of Mara of light are in the heavens. S 32. 2, 7, 8. Lut. The Hebrew word shah-middle.lish seems to be related to a root signifying 3. Compare X 14. 7, ftn. Hence, the plural form shah-middle.li-middle.shim at 1 Samuel 18. 6 has been variously translated as instruments of 3 o textoi acute miritra longo. Lysanus 285. After chapter 1 of the book of Judges, the name Luz is no longer used. See Bethel number 1. The Hebrew word Luz corresponding to the name of the town is also used at Genesis 30. 37 with reference to the almond tree staffs used by Jacob. 2. The name of a city built in the land of the Hittites by man of Bethel Luz, who cooperated with Israelite fighters of the house of Joseph in bringing about the fall of Bethel. Like Rahab and her family, he and his family were allowed to go unharmed. But, different from Rahab and perhaps indicating that the basis for his services rendered was not a genuine fear and appreciation of Jehovah the God of Israel, the man did not seek to associate himself with Israel, preferring to go to Hittite country and there built his city, which he named Luz, doubtless in memory of his hometown. The Bible does not dignify him by naming him as it does Rahab. JG 1. 23-26. Some consider it likely that the name of the city at least is reflected in the ruins of El Lawis, about 20 kilometers 12 miles of Sidon. Lycaonia like middle.o in I-A region in Asia Minor, where the Lycaonian language was spoken. Act 14. 6-11. The boundaries of Lycaonia fluctuated considerably throughout its history and are uncertain. Basically, in the period during which Lycaonia figured in the Bible record, it lay in the southern part of the Roman province of Galatia and was bounded by Pisidia and Phrygia on the W, Cappadocia on the E, and Cilicia on the S. This area consists of a treeless plain having limited water. Anciently, though, it was reasonably productive and furnished sufficient pasturage for a large number of sheep. The Apostle Paul visited Derbe and Lystra, 2 cities of Lycaonia, during the course of his first and second missionary journeys. He may also have stopped there on his third missionary tour as he traveled from place to place through the country of Galatia. Act 14. 6, 20, 21. 16. 1. 18. 23. Lycia middle.A Mount Venus region on this coast of Asia Minor. To the NW of Lycia Lake area. To the N, Phrygia and Pisidia. And to the NE, Pamphylia. The mountains in the territory of ancient Lycia are spurs of the Taurus range. Particularly in the eastern half of the region, they rise almost directly from the coast. The river valleys, chief of which is that of the Xanthus modern Kocha, are fertile. Vegetation thrives on the hills, and the mountain slopes provide pasture for sheep. 2 Lycian cities, Patara and Myra, are specifically mentioned in connection with the Apostle Paul's travels. But there is no record of his doing any preaching there. Act 21. 1. 27. 5. Luther Lidda. Luther is identified with the Lud modern Lod in the plain of Sharon about 18 kilometers 11 miles of Joppa. At Mother, Peter healed paralyzed Iones. This miracle caused many in the vicinity to accept Christianity. Act 9. 32-35, 38 Luther is considered to be the same as Lod. 1 ch. 8. 12, see Lod. Lydia A. This woman and her household were among the first persons in Europe to accept Christianity as a result of the Apostle Paul's activity at Philippi in about 50 CE. Originally she lived at Thyatira, a city in Asia Minor known for its dyeing industry. Later, at Philippi in Macedonia, Lydia sold purple, either the dye or garments and fabrics colored therewith. It appears that she was the head of her household. This could include slaves and servants, and therefore, she was possibly widowed or single. Acts 16. 14, 15. A worshipper of God, Lydia probably was a Jewish proselyte. It may be that there were few Jews and no synagogue at Philippi, so that on the Sabbath day she and other devout women assembled by a river outside the city. When the Apostle Paul preached to these women, Lydia listened attentively. After being baptized along with her household, she entreated Paul and his companions to stay with her, saying, "If you men have judged me to be faithful to Jehovah, enter into my house." O textoi acute miritra longo. Lysias 286. An inscription from the time of Tiberius Caesar found there commemorates a temple dedication by a freedman of Lysanias the Tetrarch. Corpus Inscriptionum Graecorum, Volume 3, No. 4521. Because Josephus refers to Lysanias executed about 34 BCE by Mark Antony at Cleopatra's instigation, some have charged Luke with inaccuracy. Jewish Antiquities, 15. 92-4, 1. However, Luke did not err, for the Lysanias he mentions is not the same person as the earlier Lysanias the son of Ptolemy who, before being executed, ruled, not Abilene, but nearby Chalcis, and who is not called a tetrarch. Lysias. See Claudius Lysias. Lystra. A city of Lycaonia, a region in the south-central part of Asia Minor. Lystra has been identified with a mountain to the end of Hatunsere, situated in a fertile, well-watered area about 32 km 20 mi SSW of Kenya Iconium. It was to Lystra in the Roman province of Galatia that the Apostle Paul and Barnabas came after being forced to leave Iconium because of an attempt to have them stoned. The city was then a Roman colony, having earlier been made such by Augustus. The native inhabitants, however, continued to speak the Lycaonian language. After Paul healed a man lame from birth, the crowds concluded that he and Barnabas were incarnated gods, Hermes and Zeus. Barely were they able to restrain the people from sacrificing to them. Later, however, Jews from Iconium and Pisidian Antioch so stirred up the inhabitants of Lystra against Paul that they stoned him and dragged his body outside the city, imagining him to be dead. Afterward, when surrounded by fellow Christians, Paul got up, entered Lystra, and then, accompanied by Barnabas, left the next day for Derbe. Act 14. 1, 5-20. Subsequent to their activity at Derbe, Paul and Barnabas returned to Lystra, Iconium, and Antioch. They strengthened and encouraged the disciples associated with the newly established Christian congregations in those cities and appointed older men. Act 14. 21-23. Later, after the circumcision issue was settled by the apostles and older men of the Jerusalem congregation c. 49 CE, Paul again visited Derbe and Lystra. The reference to this at Acts 16. 1 could be understood to mean that the young man Timothy resided at either Lystra or nearby Derbe. But the evidence seems to favor Lystra. For while Derbe is not mentioned again in connection with Timothy, Acts 16. 2 specifically states that Timothy was well reported on by the brothers in Lystra and Iconium. See also 2t3. 10, 11. Timothy had made such good progress that Paul chose him as a traveling companion. Acts 16. 3. When the Apostle Paul visited various places in the country of Galatia on his third missionary tour, he may also have stopped at Lystra. Act 18. 23. Maakamara Middledotka. The name of several persons in the kingdom. 1-9. Possibly from a root meaning squeeze 1. A child born to Nahor, Abraham's brother, by his concubine Rumah. The child was evidently a male, as a kingdom and its inhabitants derived their name from this person. GE 22. 23, 24. 2 10. 6, 8. 2. Wife of the Manasseh Makkah. 1 ch 7. 14-16. 3. One of the concubines of Caleb the son of Hezron, who bore several of his children. 1 ch 2. 18, 48, 49. 4. The wife of Jael the father of Gibeon. 1 ch 8. 29. 9. 35. 5. One of David's wives and the daughter of Dolmai the king of Geshur. She was Absalom's mother. 2 3. 2, 3. 1 ch 3. 1, 2. 6. Father or ancestor of Hanan, a mighty man of David's military forces. 1 ch 11. 26, 43. 7. Father or ancestor of Shephatiah, a prince of Israel appointed leader of the Simeonites in David's organization of the king's service. 1 ch 27. 1, 16, 22. 8. Father of Achish, king of Gath, to whom Shimei's slaves fled early in Solomon's reign. 1 Chi 2. 39. This Makkah may be the same person as Ma'ok of 1 Samuel 27. 2. Ma'ok. 9. Absalom's granddaughter, who was the most beloved wife of Judin or Textoi acute Miritra Longo, Marcia 287 horrible idol to the sacred pole, or the Asherah. 1 Chi 15. 9-13. 2 ch 15. 16. She is called Micaiah 2 Chronicles 13. 2. 10. A petty kingdom in existence in Palestine at the time of the Israelite invasion, also called Muakath. The territory of the tribe of Manasseh evidently was to embrace this area, but the record shows that the Israelites did not dispossess the inhabitants of that land, so they kept dwelling in the midst of Israel. 3. 14. Jos 13. 13. Generally associated with the neighboring kingdom of Geshur, Makkah appears to have been located to the end of that kingdom and to have bordered on the region of Bashan. Jos 12. 5. It is usually considered to have occupied the area running from the southern slopes of Mount Hermon down to the Hula Basin and from the Jordan River eastward to the edge of the Syrian desert, or, basically, the northern part of the present district of Golan. Makkah was an Aramean Syrian kingdom, its people perhaps descending from Nahor son of the same name. GE 22. 24. 1 ch 19. 6. When the Ammonites went to war against King David, they hired the services of the king of Makkah, along with others. The small number of troops provided by Makkah, as compared with those of the other allies, may indicate the small size of the Mu'akkatite kingdom. 2 10. 6-8. Joab's victory over the Ammonites and their Syrian allies was followed up by a further victory over the Syrians by King David. 2 10. 13-19. From later accounts it seems likely that the kingdom of Makkah eventually came under the domination of the kingdom of Damascus. Muakath. See Makkah no. 10. Muakkatite Ma Akka title belonging to Muakath the town. Inhabitant of the Aramean kingdom of Makkah 3. 14. Jos 12. 5. 13. 13, one of these being Eshtemoa. 1 ch 4. 19. It is suggested that Abel Beth Makkah, meaning watercourse of the house of Makkah, a town in Palestine, may have been so named because of its proximity to the region occupied by the Maakatites. 1 Chi 15. 20. Madai Ma Dar, a shortened form of Madia. An Israelite among the sons of Bani who had accepted foreign wives, but sent them away in Ezra's day after the Jews returned from Babylonian exile. Ez 10. 25, 34, 44. Madia Ma Diajadex himself. A priest and head of a paternal house accompanying those returning from Babylon with Zerubbabel. Ne 12. 1, 5. Modia mentioned at Nehemiah 12. The 17th of May be the same person. Marai. A priest and musician who descended from Asaph and played an instrument of song at the inauguration of Jerusalem's wall in Nehemiah's time. Ne 12. 36. Mara Arith Mara Middle. Rath Cave. Or, Bearfield. A town assigned to the tribe of Judah. Jos 15. 21, 59. A site near the village of Beit Umar in the hill country of Judah, 11 kilometers 7 miles of Hebron, is considered to be the probable location. Some suggest that Mara Arith may be a variant name of Meroth. Mick 1. 9, 12. Masai Mara Middle. Psi, possibly a shortened form of Marcia. A priest and descendant of Immer, who returned from Babylonian exile. 1 ch 9. 10, 12. Marcia Ma Middle. A Middle. Cr work of Jehovah. 1. A Levite musician of the 2nd Division who played a stringed instrument when the Ark of Jehovah was brought from the house of Obed-Edom to Jerusalem in David's day. 1 ch 15. 17-20, 25. 2. One of the chiefs of hundreds who entered the covenant with high priest Jehoiada in connection with establishing Jehoash as Judah's rightful king in place of the usurper Athaliah. 2 ch 23. 1. 3. An officer under the control of Hananiah, a prince of Judah's king Uzziah. He evidently had to do with the registration of Uzziah's military forces. 2 ch 26. 11. 4. The son of the king and offspring of Judean king Ahaz, or possibly an official of royal descent who was killed by the Ephraimite Zitri when Pekah of Israel invaded Judah. 2 ch 28. 1, 6, 7. 5. The chief of the city of Jerusalem and one of the men King Josiah sent to repair a textile acute Miritra Longo, Mark 288, 11. A priest of the sons of Pasha, also among those sending their foreign wives away. As 10. 22, 44. 12. An Israelite of the sons of Pahath Moab, among those dismissing their foreign wives. As 10. 25, 30, 44. 13. Father or ancestor of a certain Azariah, one of the repairers of Jerusalem's wall under Nehemiah's supervision. Ne 3. 23. 14. A man who stood at Ezra's right hand when he read the law to the Israelites assembled in Jerusalem. Ne 8. 2, 4. 15. A Levite who assisted the priest Ezra by explaining the law to the Israelites gathered in Jerusalem. Ne 8. 7. 16. One of the heads of the people whose descendant, if not he himself, attested by seal the trustworthy arrangement of Nehemiah's time. Ne 9. 38. 10. 1, 14, 25. 17. A man of Judah who resided in Jerusalem after the return from Babylonian exile. Ne 11. 4, 5. He may be identical with Isaiah of 1 Chronicles 9. 5. See Isaiah no. 4. 18. A man of Benjamin who was an ancestor of Salu, a resident of Jerusalem in Nehemiah's time. Ne 11. 7. 19. A priest who participated in the dedication of Jerusalem's wall in the time of Nehemiah. Ne 12. 41. 20. Another priest participating in the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem in Nehemiah's day. Ne 12. 42. Marath. One of Jesus' ancestors listed in his genealogy as given by Luke. Luke 3. 23, 26. Maes Mara's shortened form of Ahimaaz. One of Judah's descendants through Dramiel and Ram. 1 ch 2. 3, 25, 27. Maeshumar middle. Cr Jehovah is a stronghold. 1. A descendant of Aaron who was made head of the 24th course of priests in David's day. 1 ch 24. 1, 18. 2. One of the priests, or a forefather of one, who attested by seal the trustworthy arrangement of Nehemiah's time. Ne 9. 38. 10. 1, 8. Macedonia, Macedonian Mac N. a region of Europe occupying the central part of what is now known as the Balkan Peninsula. It extended from the Adriatic Sea on the W to the Aegean Sea on the E, and lay in Aegae. Although having numerous fertile plains, this is chiefly a mountainous area. Anciently, Macedonia served as a vital link between the east and the west. The Roman-built Via Egnatia ran from Dyrrhachium and Apollonia on the W coast of the peninsula to Neapolis on the E coast, and beyond. The Macedonians were descendants of Japheth, perhaps through Kittime the son of Javan. GE 10. 2, 4, 5. Although primarily associated with the island of Cyprus, the name Kittime was anciently also used to refer to other areas. The historian Josephus writes that the Hebrews called the islands and most of the seacoasts apparently those in the Mediterranean area Chethim. Jewish Antiquities, I, 128-6, 1. This may account for Macedonia's being called Sethim in the apocryphal book of 1 Maccabees 1. 1 die. KX and provides a possible basis for considering the Macedonians to have been descendants of Kittime. History. Macedonia attained prominence under the rule of Philip II. He was able to consolidate Macedonia and neighboring regions, and as a result of his victory in the Battle of Chaeronea 338 BCE, Macedonia emerged as supreme in relation to the majority of the Greek states. Subsequent to Philip's assassination, his son Alexander the Great ascended the throne. 2 years later, Alexander commenced his extensive campaign of conquest. By the time of his death at Babylon 323 BCE, Alexander, through his military victories, had built up an empire that extended as far as India and included Mesopotamia, Syria, Palestine, Egypt, Asia Minor, Thrace, Macedonia, and Greece. See Dar 2. 31-33, 39. 7. 6. 8. 1-7, 20, 21. Alexander number 1. Beasts, symbolic. Image. When the empire was divided following Alexander's death, Antipater, who has been the regent of Macedonia while Alexander was warring in the east, retained his position. Before his death, Antipater entrusted the regency to Polyperchon instead of to his own son Cassander. Then followed Otextoi Acute Longo, Mecca 289 CE. It was joined with Aegae, to the S, and Mosia, to the N, to form an imperial province under the legate of Mosia. However, in 44 CE Macedonia again became a senatorial province under the jurisdiction of a Roman governor. See Greece, Greeks. Paul's ministry. Macedonia was the first area in Europe to be visited by the Apostle Paul on his second missionary journey. While at Troas in NW Asia Minor, Paul had a vision. A certain Macedonian man was standing and entreating him and saying, "Step over into Macedonia and help us." Acts 16. 8, 9. Paul responded to that vision and, with Luke, Timothy, and Silas if not also other companions, left for Macedonia. After arriving at Neapolis, the port of Philippi in Macedonia, Paul went to Philippi and there declared the good news. Acts 16. 11-40. Luke, it appears, remained at Philippi when Paul, Silas, and Timothy journeyed through the Macedonian cities of Amphipolis about 50 kilometers 30 MWSW of Philippi and Apollonia about 35 kilometers 22 ms of Amphipolis. Next Paul witnessed in the Macedonian cities of Thessalonica about 45 kilometers 28 MWNW of Apollonia and Berea about 65 kilometers 40 MWSW of Thessalonica respectively. Acts 17. 1-12. On account of threatened mob violence at Berea, Paul was forced to depart from Macedonia. But he left Silas and Timothy at Berea so that they might care for the new group of believers there. Silas and Timothy were to join him later. Acts 17. 13-15. Paul, concerned about the welfare of the newly formed congregation at Thessalonica, sent Timothy to encourage the brothers there. 1th 3. 1, 2. Perhaps Timothy joined Paul at Athens, in Aegae, and then was sent back to Thessalonica. But it seems more likely that Paul notified him at Berea to make the trip to Thessalonica. The good report Timothy brought, upon returning, prompted Paul to write his first letter to the Thessalonians 1th 3. 6. Acts 18. 5. His second letter to the Thessalonians followed not long thereafter. During the course of his third missionary tour, Paul made plans to return to Macedonia. 1 Co 16. 5-8. 2 Co 1. 15, 16. Although Paul remained a while longer at Ephesus, he sent Timothy and Erastus to Macedonia in advance. Act 19. 21, 22. It was after this that the Ephesian silversmith Demetrius stirred up a riot against Paul. The city was thrown into confusion, and as the Ephesians rushed into the theatre, they seized and took Longason and Aristarchus, Macedonians, travelling companions of Paul. Act 19. 23-29. After the uproar subsided, Paul set out for Macedonia. Act 20. 1. He apparently stopped at Troas. There he was disappointed at not meeting Titus, who had been sent to Corinth, in Achaia, to assist in the collection for the holy ones in Judea. 2 Co 2. 12, 13. Paul then proceeded to Macedonia, where he was joined by Titus and received word about the way the Corinthians had reacted to the apostles' first letter. 2 Co 7. 5-7. Subsequently Paul wrote his second letter to the Corinthians and later went south to Greece. He had intended to sail from Greece to Syria, but a plot against him by the Jews caused him to change his plans and to return to Macedonia instead. Act 20. 2, 3. His travelling companions included 3 Macedonians, Sopater, Aristarchus, and Secundus. Act 20. 4. Although poor themselves, the Macedonian Christians were very generous. They expended themselves beyond their actual ability in making contributions for the needy brothers in Judea. 2 Co 8. 1-7. Compare 15. 26, 27. 2 Co 9. 1-7. Especially were the Philippians outstanding in supporting Paul's ministry. 2 Co 11. 8, 9. php 4. 15-17. Even while the apostle was imprisoned at Rome for the first time, the congregation at Philippi sent Epaphroditus to minister to Paul's needs. php 2. 25-30. 4. 18. And the Thessalonians manifested great faith and endurance and, therefore, came to be an example for all the believers in Macedonia and in Achaia. 1th 1. 1-8. 4. 9. O textoi acute miritra longo. Maturites 290. Maturites and is called the father of Gilead. His wife was Raca, and he had sons within Joseph's lifetime. GE 50. 23. New 26. 29. Jos 17. 1. 1ch 2. 21, 23. 7. 14-17. The sons of Mecca captured the region of Gilead, drove out the Amorites, and were given that district as inheritance. New 32. 39, 40. To 3. 15. Jos 13. 31. Zelopad and his daughters were of the Manasseh family of Mecca. New 27. 1. 36. 1, 2. Jos 17. 3. In the victory song of Deborah and Barak, Mecca seems to be used poetically for the entire tribe of Manasseh. JG 5. 1, 14. 2. Son of Emil and resident of Lodabar, with whom Jonathan's son Mephibosheth resided until David sent for him and made provision for his care. 2 9. 4-7, 13. Later, during Absalom's rebellion, Mecca was among the persons who supplied King David and his associates with food and other provisions. 2 17. 27-29. Maturites Marker Middledodites of belonging to Mecca. A family of the tribe of Manasseh founded by his son Mecca. New 26. 29. See Mecca number 1. Magna Dibbe Mark Middle.Nadi Middle.By. Apostexilic Israelite among those who sent away their foreign wives in Ezra's day. Ez 10. 25, 40, 44. Magdala Mark Middle.Peela from a root meaning double, possibly indicating that the cave had a double entrance or 2 recesses or receptacles. The name of a field and a cave near Hebron, purchased by Abraham from Ephron the Hittite for 400 silver shekels c. $880. The cave was a burial place for Abraham's wife Sarah and for at least 5 others: Abraham, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah. GE 23. 14-19. 25. 9. 49. 30, 31. 50. 13. The name evidently also applied to the surrounding area. GE 23. 17. The cave is generally identified with Me'arat Hamak Pella, in modern Hebron beneath a Muslim mosque within an enclosure called Haram el-Khalil. At Genesis 23. 17. The Hebrew term indicating the position of the cave of Machpelah in relation to Mamre has been variously rendered east of Rs, before as, near B, opposite JB, and in front of Mamre NW. If the traditional location of Mamre or Ramat el-Khalil is correct, the rendering east of Mamre would not be appropriate, since this site lies about 3 kilometers to Mian of modern Hebron. The phrase Mamre, that is to say, Hebron GE 23. 19, may mean that Mamre was in the district of Hebron. Madai Madar Middle.I. The third listed son of Japheth. GE 10. 2. 1 ch 1. 5 he is believed to be the progenitor of the Medes. Because of this understanding, elsewhere in the Bible the Hebrew Ma Middle.I is translated Medes, or Media, as at 2 Kings 17. 6. 18. 11. Esther 1. 3. Isaiah 13. 17. 21. 2. And other texts. The Medes were also called Madai in Assyro-Babylonian, Akkadian and Mada in Old Persian. At some point in the past, they established themselves in the Iranian Plateau region, settling primarily between the Elburz Mountains east of the Caspian Sea and the Zagros Mountains to the east of Assyria. The modern name Iran derives from the word Arion, a term used to refer to those of Japhetic descent. Madman, a mad middle. Man, now from a root meaning manure. 1. This name appears in the list of descendants of Judah through Caleb. Caleb's concubine Maacah is stated to have borne Sha'af, the father of Madmannah. 1 ch 2. 49. However, most scholars consider the term father to be used here in the sense of founder and consider Madmannah in this text to correspond with the town considered below, Sha'af being viewed as the founder or perhaps the rebuilder thereof after its capture. It may be noted that the names of Kiriath Jearim and Bethlehem appear in a similar context in the following verses. 1 ch 2. 50, 54. 2. A city in the southern part of the territory of Judah. Jos 15. 21, 31. Although Umdiyan may preserve the ancient name, there are no suitable remains at the site. Scholars in recent times favor Batatrat, about 15 kilometers 9.5 mi of Beersheba. A comparison of Joshua 15. O textoi acute miritra longo, madness 291 madmena mad middle. Me now from a root meaning manure. A site in the path of the Assyrian advance toward Jerusalem. Issa 10. 24, 31, 32. Today Madmenna's exact location is unknown, but some tentatively identify it with Shufat, about 4 kilometers 2.5 mi NW of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Madness. Mental derangement, either insanity or a condition of extreme rage or great folly. Various Hebrew and Greek words are employed in the scriptures to denote such disorders of the mind, whether lasting or temporary. Some of these words seem to be associated with or derived from the weird and sometimes violent or sorrowful cries of persons afflicted with madness. Madness befell boastful Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar. In fulfillment of a prophetic dream explained by Daniel, this monarch was stricken with madness at the time of boasting. For 7 years he was insane, and vegetation he began to act just like bulls. Darfur. 33. His reason gone, Nebuchadnezzar may have imagined that he was a beast, perhaps a bull. Regarding his mental derangement, a French medical dictionary states: lycanthropy. From lycos, lupus, wolf. And throw middle. Pos, homo, man. This name was given to the sickness of people who believe themselves to be changed into an animal, and who imitate the voice or cries, the shapes or manners of that animal. These individuals usually imagine themselves transformed into a wolf, a dog or a cat. sometimes also into a bull, as in the case of Nebuchadnezzar. Dictionnaire des Sciences et Médicales, par un Société des Médecines et de Chirurgiens, Paris, 1818, Volume 29, p. 246. At the end of the 7 years, Jehovah restored Nebuchadnezzar's understanding to him. Darfur 34-37. Madness and demon possession. While not all persons afflicted with madness or insanity are possessed by the demons, logically persons possessed by the demons may be expected to manifest an unbalanced mental state. In the country of the Gerasenes, Jesus encountered a madman who was demon-possessed. His haunt was among the tombs, and though he had often been bound with fetters and chains, the chains were snapped apart by him and the fetters were actually smashed. And nobody had the strength to subdue him. Further, continually, night and day, he was crying out in the tombs and in the mountains and slashing himself with stones. After Jesus cast out the demons, the man had a sound mind. Mr. 5. 1-17. Lu 8. 26-39. However, Christians are kept safe from demon invasion that produces madness if they put on and keep on the complete suit of armor from God. F6. 10-17. Feigned madness. On one occasion, while he was outlawed by King Saul, David sought refuge with Achish the king of Gath. Upon discovering who he was, the Philistines suggested to Achish that David was a security risk, and David became afraid. Consequently, he disguised his sanity by acting insane. He kept making cross marks on the doors of the gate and let his saliva run down upon his beard. Thinking David was crazy, Achish let him go with his life, as a harmless idiot. David was later inspired to write Psalm 34, in which he thanked Jehovah for blessing this strategy and delivering him. 1 Sir 21. 10. 22. 1. Madness of opposition to Jehovah. The prophet Balaam foolishly wanted to prophesy against Israel in order to receive money from King Balak of the Moabites, but Jehovah overruled and prevented his efforts. The Apostle Peter wrote about Balaam that a voiceless beast of burden, making utterance with the voice of a man, hindered the prophet's mad course. For Balaam's madness the apostle used the Greek word paramiddle.rephromiddle.enia, which is the thought of being beside one's mind. 2 Pe 2. 15, 16. New 22. 26-31. Regarding the false prophets of Israel, the prophet Hosea wrote, "The prophet will be foolish, the man of inspired expression will be maddened on account of the abundance of your error, even animosity being abundant." Ho 9. 7 Jehovah texto e acute miritra longo. Madden 292. In prophecy the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar was likened to the cup of the wine of Jehovah's rage. This the nations would have to drink, and it would cause them to shake back and forth and act like crazed men, because of the sword that I Jehovah am sending among them. Jer 25. 15, 16. Later, in Babylon herself madness would be brought about, her idolaters having horrifying visions, and because of their frightful visions they would keep acting crazy. Jer 50. 35-38. She, too, would have to drink the cup of Jehovah's rage. Jer 51. 6-8. Extreme rage. Madness, as used biblically, can also denote extreme rage. On a Sabbath day Jesus cured a man with a withered right hand. The observing scribes and Pharisees thereupon became filled with madness, and they began to talk over with one another what they might do to Jesus. Luke 6. 6-11. To describe their state of mind, Luke used the Greek word enoimiddle.a, meaning, literally, mindlessness. The English word paranoia is related to this term. Paul evidently had in mind extreme rage or fury when he admitted that in persecuting Christians he has been extremely mad against them. Act 26. 11. Contrasted with wisdom. In the book of Ecclesiastes, the congregator reveals that he gave his heart to knowing wisdom and to knowing madness. EC 1. 17. His investigation did not restrict itself to considering wisdom, but also took into account its opposite as manifested by men. EC 7. 25. At Ecclesiastes 2. 12, Solomon again reveals that he weighed wisdom, madness, and folly. In this way he could determine their contrast in value. he recognized inordinate frivolity as madness, saying, I said to laughter, insanity. 4. As compared with wisdom, it was senseless, not producing real happiness. EC2. 2. Commenting on the stupid one's condition of mind, Solomon said, the start of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end afterward of his mouth is calamitous madness. EC10. 13. Foolishness may take the form of a trick, which can sometimes be so harmful to its victim that the player of the trick is likened to a madman armed with deadly weapons. PR 26. 18, 19. Some have no hope in the resurrection of the dead, thinking that death ends all for everyone. Giving evidence of their unbalanced outlook, they seek only to satisfy their fleshly inclinations and show no concern about doing God's will. Solomon also took note of them, saying, because there is one eventuality to all, the heart of the sons of men is also full of bad. And there is madness in their heart during their lifetime, and after it. To the dead ones. EC9. 3. Illustrative use. The Apostle Paul's authority and apostleship were challenged by some in Corinth, whom he sarcastically termed superfine apostles. 2 Co 11. 5. In order to bring the Corinthian congregation to their senses, Paul boasted about his credentials, his blessings and the things he had experienced in Jehovah's service, proving his claim. This boasting was contrary to the usual speech of a Christian, but Paul had to do it in this case. Hence he spoke of himself as though being out of his mind and said of the so-called superfine apostles, are they ministers of Christ? I reply like a madman, I am more outstandingly one. 2 Co 11. 21-27. Madon Mardon from the root verb meaning judge. A royal Canaanite city that leagued itself with Hazor against the Israelites and was subsequently defeated. Jos 11. 1-12. 12. 19. Madon is usually identified with Carnhatan Horvat Carnhatim, about 8 km 5 MWNW of Tiberias. But Madon, about 1 km 0.6 m to the S, seems to preserve the ancient name. However, some question the identification, because it is based solely on the similarity of the name of nearby Madon to the biblical name. Magadan Dan. An area near the Sea of Galilee to which Jesus withdrew after his miraculous feeding of about 4,000 men. Mount 15. 39. Manuscripts of more recent dato textoi acute miritra longo, magic and sorcery 293. The Hebrew Dal means tower. This place is often suggested as the home of Mary Magdalene. Magbish. The name of either a person or a place. Among those returning from Babylonian exile were 156 sons of Magbish. As 2. 1. 30. Some tentatively identify Magbish with Bet El-Mek, located about 5 km 3 miles of Adullam. Magdalene, Mary. See Mary no. 3. Magdi El choice things have got from Babylon to Jerusalem in 537 BCE as 2. 1. 2. The name is spelled Ramia meaning, Jehovah has thundered. Uproar of Jehovah at Nehemiah 7. 7. Refine, refiner. To separate and purify metals, and the craftsman who does it,